back here in the IPO pit, we're focusing now on adding value to mining projects. Clearly, the price declines in recent years have meant that miners have had to focus a lot on cutting their costs, cutting their expenditures. But now the time has come to look to the future again to see where the next curve of value, where the next phase of value is going to come from. And to help us answer that question, we're joined by Andrew Hall, who's AMC Director and Principal Mining Engineer.
Hi,
Thanks
Mark.
very much
Nice
for
to be
taking
here.
the time, and congratulations on the launch of AMC Consultants in Singapore.
It's a very exciting time for us, so thank you very much.
Well, it is, but on the other hand, you could say, well, the prices are in a decline, and a lot of the costs had to be taken out of the mining sector. Where do we go from here?
Well, it's very true, and I think that period of instability, unfortunately, isn't completely behind us. But although there's a lot more stability within the minerals industry at the moment, it's been interesting that the reaction from the mining companies to cut costs was absolutely necessary with those rapid decline in commodity prices. But in some cases, some of the companies might have gone a little bit too far. And I think the next opportunity now is to really look at strategy, to reassess what is going to extract the most value from their mineral assets, what strategic plans, how they can look at their production, right-sizing their operations to get the best returns they can from their mineral assets.
Okay, so a couple of questions immediately spring to mind. First, how do you know that actually the prices have bottomed and now is the time to look at growth?
I would certainly never try and predict that the prices have bottomed. But I think the risk of another major collapse in commodity prices is certainly lessened, and that's what caused, I guess, the industry to react so quickly. So things have got to a point now where I think that the opportunity is looking at value creation, looking at that strategy and margins. A lot of companies have quite rightly been reducing their costs through increased productivity. But chasing or trying to be on the lowest end of the cost curve isn't the only strategy to put in place to survive, and certainly not the right strategy in the medium term to thrive when commodity prices do recover.
So what should companies do now?
Well, I think they should go back and have a look at their strategic plans. They should have a look at their mineral assets. They should be thinking about right-sizing those operations to ensure that they're maximising the value from the mineral resources that they're mining. In particular, looking at production rate, cut-off grade, mining methods, mining sequences, making sure that they're getting the very best out of their mineral resources.
How much investment is required to take advantage of some of these value-added opportunities you referred to?
Well, in many cases, if you're looking at existing mineral assets, it's often not a lot of investment. There certainly is doing rigorous analysis and studies to make sure that you understand where the asset's at and what the value opportunities are. For example, if you're applying different cut-off grades, you have to go and redesign the mine based on those cut-off grades, delineate the ore body based on those different cut-off grades. And that's a really important part of work. So there's quite a bit of technical work that's required to go through and really, prepare a comprehensive, rigorous analysis to understand what the best strategy is.
Very interesting. Earlier on you said that in some cases the cost cuts have gone too far.
Yeah.
So where do you think, beyond the fat, some of the meat has been trimmed?
Well, certainly I think a lot of the technical departments within the mining companies have been significantly affected. So there's been a lot of exodus of really good, experienced technical people from the mining operations with great knowledge of the ore bodies and the mineral assets. And I think that's been a significant loss for a lot of mining companies.
At worst, what's the implication?
Well, the implication is that if you don't have good technical people that understand the mineral resources that are being mined, you're not going to be preparing good, robust strategic plans. And if you're not preparing good, robust strategic plans and implementing at the operations level so that the operations are aligned with strategic intent, you're certainly not going to be able to maximise the value out of your resources.
Now, you live and breathe mining, you talk about it every day in the office, and now including in your new Singapore office. What are you now waiting for? What is the signpost for the next big uptick where you would say to your clients, beyond cutting costs, beyond adding value, now's the time to go big?
Well, I think in many ways the message that we're sort of talking about with strategic planning and optimisation isn't about going big. In fact, in many cases it's the exact opposite. being more selective about what's being mined, not chasing economies of scale and low unit costs, but focusing on margins. Because the unique thing about the minerals business is the fact that it's not a manufacturing plant. You have a choice to be selective over the grade, quality of material that you're being mined. So you can either have a higher production rate where you're trying to feed a bigger mill, or in many cases you can be more selective with a smaller operation and potentially increase your margins and ultimately the returns on capital investment.
So you've given us one example for where that value added could be found. Actually, how many different ideas do you and your colleagues at AMC Consultants have in this regard?
Well, I think with the amount of experience we have, they're never ending from a technical viewpoint. I guess with having good experienced people going and looking at a mineral asset, understanding what the difficulties and challenges are and being able to advise on the next steps to create value and ensure that the operation is robust and is basically reducing the volatility and being an effective operation.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew Hall, and congratulations again on the launch of your Singapore office.
Thanks, Mark.
And let's now have a look at some of the festivities here at the Singapore Exchange, where AMC Consultants has just launched its Singapore office. Back in a moment.